I'm Misty Green, and you're listening to the Misti Blue podcast, where strategy meets soul and faith finds its voice. Today, we're beginning a brand new series called Peace in the Storm, Faith in Uncertainty. It's a collection of stories from scripture and from life that remind us that peace isn't the absence of trouble, it's the presence of God in the middle of it. Each week, we'll journey through the lives of men and women who faced storms that shook literally everything that they thought they knew. Storms of loss, storms of betrayal, storms of sickness, shame, and waiting. And yet they found something sacred right in the middle of it all. They found stillness, trust, and the voice of God saying, "Peace, be still." This first episode begins with the man who lost everything yet refused to lose his faith. We're going to journey with Job. When the storm hit Job's health, his home, and his heart, Job declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." His story reminds us that even when life feels stripped bare, peace is born from surrender. By the end of this episode, I pray you'll see your own suffering differently, not as proof that God has forgotten you, but as an invitation to trust Him in a deeper way. So let's begin. This is peace in suffering, when trust becomes your absolute only anchor. Before the ashes, Job's life was full. He was wealthy, he was respected, he was healthy, and surrounded by family. A man known for his integrity and his favor. The Bible calls him blameless and upright, the greatest man among all the people of the East. He had 10 children, countless animals, acres of land. Every single thing about his life looked steady and secured. He was blessed. But peace built on possessions is not peace. It's comfort, and comfort can be shaken. And without warning, the storm came. Messengers arrived one after the other, each with news worse than the last. First, his oxen and donkeys were stolen. Okay, he could deal with that. Then fire fell from the sky and burned his sheep. Okay, God, what's next? Then his servants were killed. And next and finally, a mighty wind struck the house where his children were gathered. The building collapsed and all 10 gone in an instant. Job's world broke in a single day. Scripture says Job tore his robe and shaved his head, then fell to the ground in worship. He didn't pretend to be okay. He didn't post some pseudo-positive encouragement style quotes. He fell to the ground grieving. He was broken. He was completely undone. And out of that pain came words that still stand as one of the rawest declarations of faith ever spoken. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He didn't understand and he didn't agree, but he still trusted. Peace doesn't mean you stop feeling pain. Peace means you know who holds you right in the middle of it. If the loss of family and wealth wasn't enough, another wave hit. Scripture says Satan struck Job's body with painful sores, from the crown of his head to the sole of his feet. The man who once sat in prosperity now sat among ashes, scraping his wounds with broken pottery. I really want you to get that image. This man, once who sat in prosperity, has now been taken straight to the ash where he is scraping his body with broken pieces of pottery. The world that once admired him, now what did they do? They avoided him. Even his wife, crushed by grief, whispered, "Curse God and die." He lost it all, his wealth, his health, his reputation, his support, and now even the comfort of companionship. But Job refused to let go of the one thing that was his anchor, his faith. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. It wasn't denial. It was defiance, holy defiance against despair. Then came his three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. At first, they did something right. They sat with Job for 7 days and said nothing. Oh, to have friends like that. That silence was sacred. Sometimes the holiest thing that we can do is offer our presence, not our opinion and not our advice. But then they started talking. They tried to explain his suffering, to make sense of the senselessness. They told him God must be punishing him. They made him maybe he had sinned, that this was somehow deserved. Their words added insult to injury. How many of us have been there, hurting so deeply, and someone says, "You must not have enough faith," or "Maybe God's teaching you a lesson." I've even said that a time or two. There's a lesson in this season. Peace doesn't grow in blame. It grows in empathy. Job wrestled out loud. He questioned, he mourned, and he prayed through tears. He said, "Why was I ever born? If I go forward, you are not there. If backward, I cannot perceive you. Even today, my complaint is bitter. My hand is heavy because of my groaning." He didn't pretend. He poured out every single thought in authentic rawness. And that honesty, that raw conversation became holy ground, because faith isn't the absence of questions. Faith is bringing your questions to God anyway. Sometimes peace isn't found in the answers. It's found in the nearness that comes when you dare to ask, why? What are you showing me? What has happened? Did I go astray? Job's biggest storm wasn't loss. It was isolation. The world had labeled him. They had misunderstood him, and they wrote him off. He was grieving not just people, but he was grieving identity. He'd gone from honored to forgotten. But even when everyone else turned away, he whispered the words that became his anchor. "I know that my Redeemer lives." He didn't see evidence of the redemption yet. He just believed it was coming. That's what peace looks like when nothing makes sense, believing in resurrection while you're still surrounded by complete ruin. Then after all the questions, the silence broke. God spoke out of a whirlwind. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Have you commanded the morning since your days began? Do you give the horse its strength or clothe its neck with a flowing mane?" God didn't explain Job's pain. He revealed his power. He didn't justify himself. He reminded Job of who he is. And something shifted. Job's storms didn't stop, but his heart did. He realized that the same God who rules the lightning still ruled his life. Peace entered not through understanding, but through complete awe. Have you been there? In the end, God restored Job twice as much as he had lost. He gave him new wealth, new family, and renewed strength. But the real restoration wasn't in possessions. It was in perspective. Job said, "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes have seen you." In other words, I used to know about you, but now I know you. That's what suffering does when we let God into it. It moves us from theory to intimacy, from knowing of him to walking side by side, hand in hand with him. Maybe you're walking through your own version of Job's storms right now. Maybe it's sickness that won't heal. Maybe it's grief that won't quiet. Maybe it's divorce, betrayal, or the loss of identity. Maybe the people who once clapped for you now sit there and criticize you. Maybe you've lost your footing, your finances, or your faith might feel fragile. If that's you, hear this. You are not being punished. You are being preserved. Peace doesn't come from control. It comes from complete surrender. When life unravels, peace is the hand you still choose to reach for, even when you don't understand why the storm came. If you're standing in ashes, let me leave you with a few anchors to hold on to. Feel it fully. Peace begins when pretense ends. Pray honestly. God isn't offended by your questions. He's drawn to your honesty and your authenticity. Look for his presence, not his plan. Sometimes he'll still the storm. Other times he's going to still you. And remember this. The God who restored Job is the exact same God watching over you. Your story, it isn't over. This storm is temporary. It's just being rewritten from ashes to beauty. If you're listening today from your own storm, the diagnosis, the loss, the heartbreak, the silence, may you feel peace settle over you like a gentle hush. Not because everything makes sense, but because you are not alone in it. God still speaks out of the whirlwinds. He still restores what's been stripped away. And even now, he's saying to your soul, peace, be still. Take a breath. That's what faith sounds like when it exhales. This is Peace in the Storm, when faith meets the fierce. I'm Misty Green, and this is the Misti Blue podcast. If Job's story met you where you are, share this episode with someone else who's still standing in their storm. And join me next time for Peace and Betrayal, from the pit to the palace, the story of Joseph and how God turns betrayal into breakthrough. Until then, stay anchored.